tardes, bienvenido a mi canal. Yo me llamo Sirey. Soy una abogada afro-latina licenciada practicando las leyes criminales, pero como todos ustedes, a mí me fascina cuando estamos hablando de casos de crímenes reales. En este video vamos a hablar del caso de Jordan Henning. Si quieren más video en español, nada más dime allá abajo. Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Desiree. I'm a licensed and practicing Afro-Latina criminal attorney who, much like the rest of you, has a severe fascination with true crime cases. Listen, the case we're going to talk about today is a case that I was just completely astonished by. This case was thought-provoking. This case was awe-inducing. This case was absolutely riveting. And that is the case of Jordan Henning. Before we get started, I will just let you know that the entirety of Jordan's trial was not live streamed, but I pulled from the clips that I could. Jordan Henning and his wife Ashley Henning were an interracial married military couple. Why is that important and relevant? Well, you'll find out later in the story. Ashley had 2 children from a prior relationship, and her and Jordan shared 1 child. I believe both Jordan and Ashley were in the Army, but Ashley was actually a higher ranking official than her husband. Prior to this incident, Jordan and Ashley celebrated their 7-year anniversary. On June 26th of 2023, Jordan and Ashley were celebrating Ashley's 37th birthday in their Kentucky home. Many of Jordan and Ashley's friends and family were over at the home to celebrate this momentous occasion. During the party, however, a fight broke out between Jordan and Ashley. Jordan and Ashley had security cameras within the home, and they captured the entirety of the altercation. So this is what happened. Jordan and Ashley were in an altercation in their kitchen. Jordan grabbed a gun, shot Ashley 4 times, left about that kitchen, went, reloaded that gun, came back to the kitchen, shot her a 5th time, and then spit on her body. There are very few things in this entire world that I find more offensive, more lowbrow, more low vibrational, more ghetto, ratchet, disrespectful, nasty, just all of it, than spitting on someone. But Jordan did it. The worst part of all of this, even worse than Jordan's saliva exiting his trachea to spit on Ashley, is the fact that their children were home when this happened. Following the shooting, the prosecution rightfully charged Jordan Henning with the first-degree intentional murder of his wife Ashley. Despite the entirety of this interaction being captured on video, despite the fact that Jordan did all of this in front of his kids, despite the fact that Jordan was going to traumatize his children for the rest of their lives, knowing that their father killed their mother, despite all of that, Jordan decided to enter a not guilty plea and proceed to traumatize everyone even more and take this case to trial. Jordan has the constitutional right to take anything to trial should he choose. Let's just start there. It's his right. He has the right to do that. The trauma that these kids endured, you know you did it. You said you did it. You've admitted to doing it. I mean, at least the smallest bit of accountability might have helped in their healing. The first day of Jordan's trial took place on March 1st of 2025. On this day, Prosecutor Carr delivered his opening statement on behalf of the state of Kentucky.
Storm clouds gathered over the Henning household, and another storm tore through that house that took her life. As soon as her friends were gone, Jordan Henning came in, and you'll see and hear, because this storm too was caught on camera. Surveillance cameras around the house will show you how Jordan Henning raged into the kitchen and begins yelling. He screams at her, he yells at her, "You never listen to me, you don't love me." He's berating their son. It gets to the point, you'll see, she yells for the kids to go to their rooms and close their doors. You'll see and hear how one of the children ran next door to the neighbors, and you'll see how the neighbors came to try and intervene and calm him down. And he threatens them. And unfortunately, you're going to see, after all of the turmoil, all of the threats, you're going to see Ashley Henning sitting in a chair. And Jordan Henning shooting her as she sits there pleading with him to put the gun down. You see how she tries to get up and run. He follows, stands over her and shoots her. Gets another magazine and comes back and stands over her and executes her. And you'll see how he spits on her body as he walks away. And you'll hear how he does a countdown. He tells her, "This is going to end in death tonight." And you're going to hear him tell her it's all her fault. Now, I don't know what kind of explanation or excuse one can come up for that. But when you've heard all of the evidence and you've seen and heard the video, I'm going to ask you to find Jordan Henning guilty of murder.
You'll notice that in most of my videos lately, I've been really critical of the attorneys involved in these cases. Specifically as it relates to prosecution, the burden is extraordinarily high. This is a serious position that they are in, and they need to take it as such. All that said, Mr. Carr's opening statement was wah, wah, wah. Like, it was just so emotionless. It was passionateless. It was just flat. He even delivered it with a flat affect and demeanor. I didn't enjoy a single portion of it. None of it. It could have been so much better. After Mr. Carr's opening statement, defense attorney Robert Eggert delivered his opening statement on behalf of Jordan.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. Good morning. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Henning was an outstanding soldier. He served his country honorably, both in the United States and overseas. He placed himself in danger. He served our country and served our country to protect us. Tragically, on this date, and this is a man, the evidence will show, no criminal record, no brushes with the law, never committed a crime in his life. But on this day, he snapped. He lost it. He went over the edge. He killed his wife in his home. The home had a security system, which he helped install. And so the shooting is on video. The shooting is awful. But having said that the video is awful, ladies and gentlemen, Jordan Henning, as I said, broke. He's not the first person to break, and he broke. There's no other explanation. He went over the edge, and he went over the edge for a variety of reasons. One, he was embroiled in a marriage that was horrible. The proof will show that there was physical abuse in the marriage and had been for years. Grabbing of the testicles to the point where he was in pain. Mental abuse. You're worth nothing. You're nothing at all. You're useless. You're worthless. You're not a man. It was day after day, year after year. You're nothing. He had a condition where he had to take testosterone, and there were repeated remarks. You're less than a man. And while those things were building up, ladies and gentlemen, he had 9 trips to a national training center. Combat. It's designed to be as rough as combat by the Army to prepare you for combat. And 9 trips, it is not, you'll hear testimony, it is not infrequent that people die. All right? There's an acceptable loss rate to prepare people, and he went 9 times to this training session. And it was 9 times. He might as well have been in combat or close to it. He was deployed overseas once. And on that trip, he was supposed to go to Kuwait, or supposed to go to Afghanistan. He went to Kuwait, and then they had him go into southern Iraq. He was in what's called an imminent danger zone. He was constantly on the alert. There's mortar fire in the area, small arms fire. And this is a man who was trained, ladies and gentlemen, to react, to protect himself, to go into danger if he perceived danger. And in this particular case, ladies and gentlemen, he went into that mode. It's a reflexive mode as he lost it and lost his bearing and lost his way. Now, ladies and gentlemen, we have a tradition, I believe we do in this country. We have a tradition. We do not, and never have left our soldiers on the battlefield. We've never left them to die. Never. And ladies and gentlemen, this case is serious. The video is very serious. It's horrible, but I'm going to ask you not to leave this man on the battlefield, not to leave him out there to die. At the end of the case, we're going to ask you to convict him of a very serious crime, but not murder, because he is not a murderer. He's not a criminal. He broke. Let me explain, a few of the reasons why I'm standing here and standing up. I looked at his military record and the things, the evaluation, the performances that he got. He got performances, evaluations. They would say, ladies and gentlemen, and I've got some of them right here, if I can. Among them, Henning ranks as the number 1 out of 2 sergeants that I rate. His potential's unlimited. Henning absolutely needs to go to ACL and promote to SSG ahead of peers. This NCO needs placed in position to increase responsibility as quickly as possible. Henning provided guidance to soldiers on training all personnel in a fair and equal manner. Dedicated NCO, consistently sacrificed time to ensure all soldiers' needs were met. All right? This is a career that went on for years. All right? Exhibited highest standards in loyalty, personal courage, focused on mission accomplishments with superior results, treated subordinates with fairness and respect, stood above his peers in his ability to lead soldiers, can be relied on to accomplish any task. Confident leader, ensures his soldiers are trail-winged, motivated, self-confident, performs high-quality work. Everyone, his respect for his subordinates, his respect for his peers, his service, his dedication, his loyalty, they are cited again and again. And in fact, the lack of selflessness, his selfless service was beyond reproach, completely dedicated to the mission of his shoulders. He's rated not just qualified or something. He was highly qualified. He will excel in positions of greater rank and responsibility. I could go on. I could continue a lot. I'm not gonna. That was Jordan Henning in the service of our country, protecting us.
Listen, defense's opening statement was interesting. And I'm going to call it interesting because I don't want to say many more negative things. I felt like the entirety of that opening statement was objectionable. He kept pointing to Jordan's status as a military member to try to build rapport with the jurors about how they should feel sorry for this man who spit on his wife after shooting her 5 times in front of their kids. The prosecutor should have objected more to that. The judge shouldn't have allowed that. It was like building the valor of this man before the eyes of these jurors. It was just audacious. It was bold. It was objectionable. It was not ethical. It was wrong. And he did it anyway. He made a particularly egregious statement from my perspective. And that statement was something to the effect, I'm not quoting, "He gave his life for this country. Don't take his life away." No, he did that. Jordan did that. Those were Jordan's actions. You don't try to inflame the passions of the jury in such a reckless manner. This was one of the most improper, all over the place, just disrespectful, egregious, reckless, and just objectionable openings we've seen from any defense attorney on any case for any trial I've covered on this channel. Also, following this highly objectionable and inappropriate opening statement, the jurors heard from neighbors who stated that they heard gunshots in the general area. Jurors also saw body-worn camera footage of Jordan following his arrest in this case. The second day of trial continued on March 13th of 2025. On this day, Jordan and Ashley's daughter had the unfortunate experience of testifying against her own father and telling the jurors what she remembered about that fateful. Another interesting thing that happened on this day, one of Jordan and Ashley's friends, Jamie Savat, took the stand in her defense.
Ma'am, obviously, you considered yourself a great friend of Ashley's, correct?
Yes.
And as a matter of fact, when you were interviewed by police, you told them in the first interview that you said you wanted to be there for trial. Do you recall stating that?
Yes.
And that you wanted to give an impact statement. Do you recall stating that?
I absolutely did.
All right. So, in fact, you were upset police hadn't talked to you, reached out to you immediately. Do you remember saying that?
Yes, because I was there, so why wouldn't they have?
Right. So they didn't reach out to you immediately. You wanted them to talk to you immediately. You already were talking about victim impact statements. You wanted to be, in fact, you said you weren't going to move until there was trial. You were planning to move. You're going to stay here until there was trial, correct?
I said that could possibly be the case. I didn't know, because if my husband got a job, I'd have had to move. I didn't get to dictate that.
Right, but I understand. But you said they planned to move to Virginia, but we're going to be here. Make sure you're here for the trial, correct?
I don't have to live here to be here for the trial. There's plenty of people here today that's here not because they live here.
Right, I understand that. But the way you put it is, and we have a transcript here,
Okay.
that you are going to move to Virginia, but you're going to stay here until the trial.
So am I moving or am I staying?
Pardon me?
You're saying both. Which am I doing? Am I moving or staying? Because you're kind of saying I'm doing both. So
No, I'm not. I'm asking you. You said you were planning to move to Virginia, and but I want to be here for any trial, and if we get that far in the trial, I guess I'll give the statements like the victim impact statements, correct? Is that what you said? You're already talking about victim impact.
Yes, because
Right.
there's a victim in this.
Right.
Her children are victims in this.
I understand.
And I've seen what those children went through, unlike you, unlike Jordan, unlike a lot of people in here.
Ma'am?
So yes, there was victims. I was victim in this too because I had to deal with the repercussions, unlike you that's reading off a sheet of paper.
Well, ma'am, let me ask you this, okay? I'd be happy to ask you this. You have been to court before, correct, in connection with other things? You're a guardian ad litem.
I was a guardian ad litem.
Yeah. So you've been to court,
Yes,
correct?
yes, I have.
You're familiar with court.
I sure am.
You're familiar with testifying, correct?
I sure am.
You've testified before, correct?
Yes, I have.
Okay, you're not someone who's going to be afraid or overcome or awed by the court system because,
Absolutely not.
right, because you're part of it and you've testified regarding families and children and so forth,
I
correct?
was an advocate for children, just like I'm an advocate here today to tell my side of what happened and to tell the repercussions of what happened afterwards of Ashley's children and who Ashley was as a person.
Right, but you have to answer questions because you're a witness, okay?
Exactly.
So I'll ask you questions and if you could please answer.
I'm doing
Now,
that.
you've talked about how you familiar with the court system, not awed by the court system, and that's clearly the case, and you'll come in and basically feel comfortable in court, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, police interviewed you. You have testified something that would really be very important to upset anybody, that Jordan had talked about saying, oh, if he killed somebody, he could claim EED and so forth and get away with it. Isn't that what you said essentially?
No, I don't know what EED is. I said said he could claim PTSD and say he had a rage moment. So I don't know what you're talking about with EED. So no, you're incorrect.
Well, ma'am, let me ask you this. He could claim PTSD,
Yes.
and because of that, he could claim uncontrollable rage and insanity. That's what he told you.
No, he did not go into detail. He said, I can claim PTSD, and I can also say I went into a rage because I take testosterone injections.
Well,
And people with testosterone have a tendency to sometimes rage, he said. That was his word. He didn't go into the scientific things of what PTSD was or anything of that nature. So no,
Well, I got that, but I'm going to read from the Commonwealth's notice. He indicated he could get away with it by claiming he has PTSD and is prescribed testosterone, and because of that, he could claim uncontrollable rage and insanity. That's the...
Yes.
All right. Now, that obviously would be highly relevant to any prosecution of Jordan Henning, correct?
I think it'd be important to anybody in the case.
Sure, it'd be crucial information to have that the defendant said before the homicide. Hey, not that he's talking about the homicide, but boy, if I killed anybody, I could claim PTSD and uncontrollable rage, right?
Yeah.
All right. And I gotta ask you, man, you were interviewed by the Commonwealth back in July of 23, correct?
Yes.
After the homicide, correct? After the incident.
Well, it was a few weeks after.
Right. And it's a very long interview, I think 30 transcribed pages, correct?
Well, I don't know what you determine as long. I mean, because it was maybe...
Well, it wasn't 1 or 2 pages. It wasn't a quick 1 or 2 words, correct?
Well, I don't know how many pages it was because I wasn't typing it out. I mean, I sat there and gave my statement, and it was probably a 45-minute incident. So however long it took...
45 minutes with the police telling them what you knew about the case, correct?
Yes.
All right. And the police, of course, wanted to know, correct, what you knew about the case, correct?
Well, they asked me about that day. They didn't ask me about the case. They didn't ask me about... It was about that day.
Oh, you talked about a lot of things, seeing him before, the friendship, how much you had to drink, how you bonded over soccer. You talked about the whole thing, correct?
Because like today, they asked, how did I know Ashley? Well, they led up with what happened that day. Was I there? Tell me what I knew. And then at the end of them actually asking me about that day, I mean, we got the transcripts. They said, is there anything else you'd like to tell us that would be pertinent information or that you think would be beneficial to us understanding Ashley and Jordan and what happened or might have led up to that day?
All right, what did you say?
Verbatim, word for word, I don't know. I said a lot. I mean, you said it was, what, 30-something pages?
Right.
So can you tell me what I said? And I'll tell you if I did say it or not.
Well, I'll just ask you what you didn't say.
Okay.
You never mentioned that he said before that he could kill somebody and get away with it. In the entire conversation, you're one of her best friends, you're talking to police, it's soon after the homicide, you never mentioned it.
Never mentioned.
You never mentioned the statement that he could get away with a homicide by claiming PTSD and testosterone and uncontrollable rage. You never mentioned it to police.
Because let's be real. Who thinks that someone's going to kill someone was it premeditation at that point? I don't know. I didn't even think about it at that point in time, honestly, because you know what I was doing? I was trying to tell what happened that day, my relationship with Ashley, and I didn't think you were going to sit there and try to get him off on an insanity plea either, which when I found
Does the man deserve to be defended, or should we just roll up a white
why don't we look at the video and you tell me? I mean, but apparently money, you'll take anything and defend anybody for some amount of money.
Hold on a second. Mr. Eggert. I think you stated that, you only talked about the case that day when police interviewed you. For the attack, you talked about numerous things, correct? You talked about how you met Ashley, correct?
Because they asked.
Right. You talked about it was an organic friendship, correct?
Yes.
You talked about the kids. You talked about soccer moms. You talked about tons of things over the course of that 30 pages, correct?
I'm assuming yes.
Right. And it's on tape, and the Commonwealth did it. And obviously, you know the man's charged with murder. You knew that, right?
Yeah.
When you gave the statement, in fact,
Well, actually, I didn't know that because at that time I didn't know if he was even oh yeah, he was charged with murder, but they were going through the process of trying to figure things. I didn't know what the outcome was going to be. I didn't know what was going to take place. So all I knew was he was charged with murder because I don't even think there had been a court hearing or anything prior to the fact that they had talked to me.
which you knew that he was charged with murder, correct?
Rightfully so.
Exactly, and that is obviously your opinion, and you knew he hadn't had trial yet, correct?
Correct.
And you apparently knew that he had some excuse cooked up, but you didn't tell the prosecutor or the police that statement back in July. Did you? 2023. You didn't tell them.
First off, I didn't talk to the police. I've never talked to anyone with the sheriff's department. I talked to CID on Fort Knox, which
Right.
had nothing to do with the case, actually.
They said they did.
No, it was CID. They didn't have much to do with it. They were just on Fort Knox and they were investigators. And as far as the Commonwealth, the first time I spoke with the Commonwealth was a week and a half ago, being told I was going to actually be subpoenaed here. So I did not talk to the Commonwealth. I did not talk to the sheriff, the detective. I did not talk to anybody other than the two CID agents that were in that building that day. One interviewed me. And these guys, I don't think really had anything to do with the situation. They said they were simply interviewing me because I guess the detective was out doing some other interviews or something. So they're like, you guys are on Fort Knox, so we'll go ahead and interview you guys, and you guys just tell us what happened that day. Tell us. It was a blanket all over, just tell us.
When did you first tell the prosecutor? When did you first tell him about this statement that's so damning and so important?
I just told you I spoke to him for the first time a week and a half ago.
When?
About a week and a half ago. I just
How
told
long
you.
is the trial? The case is 2 years old, and you wait till a week before trial to tell them?
So it's my place to run people down to tell them things, or is it the prosecution and the sheriff department and all their, is it their due diligence to do their job and talk to me? Which is it? It's not my place to run people down.
Miss Savat's testimony was passionate. It was emotional. It was righteous. She was there to defend her friend's honor, and I loved it. All that being said, it is incumbent upon the prosecution to present their witnesses in the best light to the jurors. And I don't think that happened. The prosecution didn't offer enough guidance for Miss Savat to present herself in an equally as emotional, in an equally as passionate, in an equally as righteous manner, but not come across as completely argumentative with the other side. It appeared to me that it was a lot of lack of witness control. This was incumbent upon the prosecution. I say that because it was their witness. But it's also incumbent upon the judge to rein it in. It's your courtroom. They failed her. They failed Miss Savat. And I don't think she came across with the best, most righteous light that had she been properly prepared, she would have come across with. Following Miss Savat's heartfelt testimony, the prosecution recalled a witness that they called the day prior to testify that Jordan had a top 10 kill list. The third day of trial continued on March 14th of 2025. On this day, the prosecution played the entirety of the living room footage for the jurors to see prior to resting. The fourth day of trial continued on March 17th of 2025. Pardon my discontent with what happened on this day, but in a disrespectful turn of events, Jordan Henning himself decided to take the stand and play the biggest victim that I have ever seen.
What do you say to those things, the audio and the video?
They're horrible. They're disgusting. I destroyed lives that day, and the people I loved, and I can't bring that back, and I can't fix this situation, and I'm sorry, and I know that'll never be enough.
When you're yelling there at Carter, you think you were maybe beginning to lose it?
Yeah, I was, I don't know, I was just mad at Ashley. And she just kept rejecting me and just, I don't know, just dismissing me. And I don't know, I was upset. And when I was yelling at Carter, yelling for Carter, and I don't know.
Now, you understand the Commonwealth say, well, when you shot the last shot, you must have been thinking about it. Were you really thinking at this point? Were you in control?
No, I wasn't thinking at all.
Did you have any judgment at this point?
No.
When you left, how did the police end up arresting you?
I don't really remember. I just remember being thrown in the back of the car, and I don't know. I just remember I was in my car, and they yelled, "Stick your hands out!" and somehow I was on my knees, and then I was arrested, and I don't know. It comes in snippets, and it's hard to piece together at times.
Now, I want to ask you, at some point you threw the gun, is that right?
Yes.
According to the video. What were you taught about weapons in the military?
So, are you talking about, like, if an enemy combatant has one, or?
Yes.
So just if they even have one in the area, if they're not allowed to, it's what we consider hostile intent. If they point it at you, hostile action. If they fire it, it's hostile action. If they're showing it, threatening to use it, things like that. You kind of read the situation. Just don't think. You just have to react to it.
Understood. This all happens, I guess, in less than 30 minutes. Honest to God, during this 30 minutes, are you making calculations, thinking, planning, anything like that?
No.
What are you doing?
I don't know what I'm doing. I'm just reacting.
You're arrested that night, right?
Say again?
You're arrested that night?
Yes, sir.
Had you ever been arrested before?
No, sir.
How about as a juvenile?
No, sir.
I mean, for anything, anywhere.
Never been in trouble more than a speeding ticket in my entire life.
How old are you?
34.
Just some of the things at least going through your mind that night, okay? Did you believe Watts said he was going to get a weapon?
Yes, I did.
Do you think Watts came back on your property? Did you believe that anything with a weapon?
Yes, I did.
Did you believe that there was a second person there as well?
Yes, I did.
Did you think, for whatever reason, that you were in danger? Did you think you were in danger?
I absolutely thought that.
Is there any doubt about you, the testicles being and you being pulled by the testicles? Was there any doubt in your mind that that had happened?
No.
I know she grabbed you by the testicles before. Was this worse, better? What was different about this?
The worst it's ever happened. I've never been drugged 10 feet by I just couldn't get her off of me. It just wouldn't let go.
Until Watts said he was going to get a gun, did you even have a gun on you that night?
No, I didn't.
Do you understand you killed somebody that night? You understand that?
Yeah, I do.
You believe you broke that night, Jordan?
I watched myself on that video, yes. I don't know who that was. I've never done that or been like that, ever. Well, that's what makes it so hard to watch.
I'm sorry, what?
So that's what makes it really hard to watch. Yeah, I don't know who that was.
I can just have a moment.
Is this a safe space? Can I tell you guys my opinions without judgment? Can I openly share with you?
Jordan is a bum. He's a bum! He's a bum and a loser! I felt so offended on behalf of Ashley's family members and her friends and her community. He took that stand and he played the biggest Karen that ever Karened before. He said that all of his actions were precipitated by those of Ashley's. In my opinion, in my professional opinion, he took not 1 ounce of accountability. He got up there and he blamed his actions on her. He blamed her death on her. It was completely unacceptable. And Jordan, if you ever happen to watch this video or come across it or anyone shows it to you, you're a bum. After Jordan's testimony, defense called Dr. Justin Anderson to testify that Jordan suffered from an emotional disturbance during the time of his wife's murder, and he couldn't really make sound judgments. The 5th day of trial continued on March 19th of 2025. On this day, defense rested and the prosecution put on a rebuttal case. I will say this. In my young career as a defense attorney, I was taught that prosecution only puts on a rebuttal case when they feel like defense is making some sort of headway. I don't know how true that is. It's not a universal truth, I guess, but that is what I was taught in my young career. I will say that in listening to the prosecution's rebuttal witnesses, I don't really feel like they offered much. The 6th and final day of trial continued on March 20th of 2025. On this day, prosecution and defense, as customary, delivered their closing arguments.
Everybody here is a bad guy except Jordan Henning. They've spent, my God, 3 hours this morning telling you what a bad guy Jimmy Watts is, what a bad guy Jason is. They've spent days telling you what a bad person Ashley is. Sergeant First Class Ashley Henning. A soldier, a mother, a woman who said, "I love you." All of the things he said about her. There's not a witness to bring forth to rebut the heinous accusations from that man. The only person who can rebut anything he said about her is dead at his hands. There is no evidence to support anything he said. Where did this all start? I told you that a storm went through that Henning house. It was Storm Jordan. How did it start? It started with him. It's a lie. Recognize it for what it is. Folks, that's exactly what I'm asking you to do. It's a lie. Everything he said is a lie. And I don't think honestly, I don't need to get too worked up. You all are more than smart enough to recognize everything he said from that stand, to be able to pick apart his contradictions. I could stand here. I could run on 2 more weeks picking apart everything he said that was contradictory, flat, false. They want to tell you they want you to see this. They want you to hear his story about it. I don't know what you make of that. She threw a remote control at him. Well, we don't get to hear her part of why. What is that? His swollen lip. I love this one. I love this photo. She bit his hand. She bit the palm of his hand. Let me say that again. She bit the palm of his hand. How do you bite the palm of someone's hand? Where does your hand have to be? Right up in their face. What was he doing, if that's what this is? What was he doing to put the palm of his hand in her mouth?
Thank you, Your Honor. Thank you, Mr. Carr. And more importantly, thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the jury. I don't think there's going to be a lot that Mr. Carr or Mr. Lasowski will agree with me during this argument. But the one thing I think they will, unequivocally, and I think I can say this without fear of contradiction, is I want to thank you for your time and your attention to this case. We have been here now almost 2 weeks. Tomorrow would be 2 weeks, except for the 2 Tuesdays. And it's asking a lot of persons like yourselves to come in here, take time away from your career, from your jobs, from your families, and sit on a case, especially one like this, which is so important. But if you remember on the very first Monday, when you all were out here and we were talking, you know, I brought up Runnymede, the Magna Carta. You're the continuation of that. As jurors, you are the barrier between them and there. Okay? That's how important your job is. And I thank you. I thank you for that. And I think they do too, to be honest with you. Now, I want to go over the jury instructions real quick. You know, we talked about presumption of innocence and reasonable doubt. The presumption of innocence, as you see it there, is verbatim from the jury instructions. And as Jordan Henning sits here right now, he's innocent. There's a shroud around him, it covers him, and that shroud is called innocence. And he will remain innocent until when or if you decide otherwise. The other major legal principle is reasonable doubt. And I'm not going to go through the jury instructions, but I tried to keep up with His Honor as he was reading these, and I would bet you that you will find the term reasonable doubt at least 12 times during these instructions, if not more. That's how important it is. This is not a car wreck case where you said, well, 51%, they prove their case by 51%, or an incompetency case where they prove their case by a higher level. This is a reasonable doubt case. It always has been, it always will be. It's an important legal concept. And the reason I bring that up is because we talked about juror error when we were questioning you. How many people have seen or read about people who have spent time in prison for a number of years only to find out that they're innocent. And we all agree that's terrible, it's god awful. Okay? And we also agreed that a person should not spend any more time incarcerated, taken away from his family, taken away from society, any more than he should be. We all agree with that, and I don't think they're going to disagree with that. The judge explained to you about, in his definitions there, extreme emotional disturbance. You know, we've never once tried to convince anyone that Mr. Henning suffered from a mental illness. We never did. Our Dr. Anderson told you that. Their Dr. Anderson told you that. But it is a temporary state of mind, so enraged, inflamed, or disturbed as to overcome one's judgment and to cause one to act uncontrollably from the impelling force of the extreme emotional disturbance, rather than from evil or malicious purposes. I want to touch briefly on that, and I'll get to it in more detail later, but we've all seen this horrific video, and it's bad. I agree with that. I wouldn't even ask you to consider it any other way. But we all agree, our Dr. Anderson, their Dr. Anderson. When you see that, he was in as Mr. Jennings didn't testify to, another zone.
After closing arguments, the jurors were given the case, and after 4 hours of deliberation, they returned their verdict.
Ladies and gentlemen, foreperson of the grand jury of the jury, has the jury reached a verdict?
Yes, sir.
All right. If you'll hand that verdict to my bailiff. And before I read the verdict, is this verdict unanimous for all 12 jurors? All right. I'll ask the defendant and his counsel to please rise. I want to caution everyone again, there will be no outburst. It's inappropriate for any parties, counsel, anyone else in the courtroom to react in any way to the verdict. So I'm looking back on page 11. We, the jury, find the defendant guilty of first-degree manslaughter under instruction number 6, signed by the foreperson. Again, let me ask you, foreperson, did I read that correctly, and is that all 12 jurors agree with that verdict? All right.
Ashley's family and friends have some very, very strong opinions about this verdict, and so do I.
First of all, saying thank you for your service, and to you and to Holly and everyone else in Ashley's family and friend circle who misses her so much. We are so sorry for your loss. I know this is a tough thing to experience and a tough pill to swallow last night for you with that verdict. John, would you kind of walk us through what was going through your mind when you heard the jury's decision, please?
Yes, ma'am. It started with shock, anger, confusion. I couldn't understand how anybody who's seen that video, and they even came back to ask to see the video multiple times for some of their jury questions, and to see some of the most gruesome parts and to come away with that decision, it was unbelievable to me.
I'm sure it was. It was unbelievable to so many of us trial watchers who were watching it. And many of us, myself included, thought this was a foregone conclusion. When I heard his defense attorney ask in opening statements to find him guilty of something lesser than murder, that told me, oh wow, this guy probably would have pled to that, but these prosecutors did not want to allow that to happen, and I don't blame them. I think they were absolutely correct to move forward on the murder charges, and here the jury did what they did. Holly, tell me your reaction. Where were you when you heard the jury's decision, and what did you think, please?
Yeah, I was in the courtroom sitting right by John. It was just the same as him. It was shock. I was devastated, disgusted. And I cannot help. I thought of this all night. I cannot help but think this is strictly on the prosecutor's shoulders. And also, I feel like this is because Ashley was black, and had the tables been turned and she killed her white husband, she would have been held accountable and done much more time than 20 years. And I just feel like this whole entire court system failed her. When they were doing jury selection, they had over 100 jurors show up for selection. They selected 14, with 2 being alternates. Out of all of that, there was only one beautiful black woman who was on that. Just yesterday, right before everything started, deliberations, they said they were going to randomly select 2 people to be let go. She was one of them. That beautiful black lady was one of them that got selected to be let go. And I cannot help but think there's just more to the story, and that a lot of it has to do with race, and I am furious. It's disgusting, and it's just something I feel like I'm never going to get over.
I couldn't agree more. The verdict seemed like a slap in the face to this beautiful, intelligent, motivated, capable, wonderful, adoring, nurturing mother, this black woman. It seemed like a slap in her face, a slap in the face of her family members, a slap in the face of her friends, and a slap in the face of future black women who are looking for the judicial system to do its job. I was extremely disappointed in this verdict, and I don't believe the jurors always get it right. My heart, my soul, my mind, my whole embodiment goes out to Ashley's friends and family. I am so sorry for your loss. And on behalf of the jurors, even though I was not there and I wasn't one, I'm sorry for the decision that was made. As always, thank you guys so much for watching. Please like, comment, share, and subscribe. Until next time, y'all take care.